Georgina, welcome to the Parables. Thank you for coming all the way from technically Chicago
Yeah.
to come on the studio. I appreciate you so much. We have John Mall in the back over here behind the scenes. Thank you for connecting us. And it's a true honor. I've been looking forward to this episode so much because of the similarities that we have and everything you're doing, which I aspire to do, and we're going to get into that shortly. So again, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk nurse entrepreneur to nurse entrepreneur and support each other. And I'm really excited for our conversation.
Thank you, thank you. So, if just to give you a little insight about the parables, we tried to get to know you a little bit and everything that's led up to your success today, with the intent for the audience, our wonderful audience, to gain something from our conversation. So
Awesome.
let's kind of go back to kind of your upbringing, kind of where you grew up, and we go from there and see where it leads up to your success.
Definitely. So I grew up with two really young parents. My mom had me at 19. I grew up watching them be entrepreneurs since I was younger. They both owned, at like 24 years old, they had bought their first house and owned a rim business during like the Fast and the Furious era.
Mm-hmm.
So they were selling like body parts, rims. They had this whole community, all these guys and even girls that were working together to make these like awesome cars in Miami, because we had lived in Miami at that time. And so I just grew up with like really hard-working parents, and neither of them went to college. And they were pretty successful in my eyes, but they're workaholics. When you own your own business, you don't get that like freedom of time. So I grew up having like my grandma take care of us, or like a nanny. And but my parents are my heroes, so I work really hard for them. But growing up, they wanted me to do one thing, and that was to go to college so I can get a good job and I can be successful. And so at 17, I had applied for college. I ended up going to San Francisco State.
And you were in Miami, in Florida the whole time?
So I lived in Florida up until I was 11 years old.
Gotcha.
We ended up moving back to California, where I was originally born, because my great-grandmother had got really sick. She had leukemia. And my great-grandmother actually raised my mother. And so my mom, she kind of gave my dad like an ultimatum. And she says, we have to go back to California, and I'm going with or without you. And my dad owned 3 businesses in Florida, and he left everything for my mom. He ended up moving everything online. But during that time, it was actually really hard to build like e-commerce online, because at that time there was like a boom and so many people were doing it.
Yeah.
So they were never as successful as they were in Florida, in California. But we ended up coming back home to take care of my grandma, who was actually a huge reason that I even got into the nursing profession, because when her leukemia, she had fought cancer, and then it had came back. And at 17, when I was at that stage where it was like time to start applying to colleges, that was actually the first time that I went into the hospital and I saw a registered nurse and like what a nurse does. And this registered nurse took care of my great-grandma for like 2 weeks straight. It was the first time that I had even walked into the hospital. And I really admired her. She was 25 years old. She was a gorgeous, like, badass nurse, just taking care of my grandma. I saw the way that she had talked about this girl. She loved her. She introduced her to her family. And at that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was really rebellious in high school. I was getting into a lot of trouble, actually, spending a lot of Saturdays.
Everyone does, right?
Yeah, spending a lot of Saturdays in, like, in-school suspension. And I was just a social butterfly. I was always trying to, make everybody laugh, and I always had a lot of friends. I played soccer, I was in club, and school, I loved like social science. I loved science. I was not good at math at all. But yeah, I didn't really, my parents, they wanted me to just go to college. Like, it wasn't like you need to be a nurse or you need to be a doctor, you need to be this. They're like, go to college and figure out like what you want to do. And yeah, I think it was just like a pivotal moment where I saw a nurse, and right before my grandma passed away, I told her, Grandma, I'm gonna be a nurse.
And what'd you say?
And she was like, yes, mija, like, please, I would love that. And she died like that week. And
You were still 17 around that time?
Yep.
Okay.
And I had already applied to school. I just didn't know what my major was going to be. I had applied under like an undetermined major.
And that's in San Francisco, right?
Yep. And then when I got into SF State, I actually ended up enrolled in pre-nursing. So that's kind of how, yeah.
Interesting. It's funny because I'm the complete opposite with my story. I kind of got molded into nursing, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
And I felt like as soon as I got accepted, oh my gosh, it was the hardest moment, like the hardest 2 years of my life. When you got into it, how like when you started taking prerequisites, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I started taking prereqs, and then I joined a cross-cultural committee in SF State. San Francisco is very like pro-diversity and cross-cultural awareness, and so I ended up becoming president of this like cross-cultural committee, and I ended up having so many friends from like Germany and Spain and Italy and Asia, and they had told me you should study abroad. And so I was like, you know what? I'm full Mexican. My stepdad is Colombian, so I grew up in like a Mexican Colombian household. And they were very Americanized in the sense like my dad is fluent in Spanish, but they really wanted us to speak English. And so I never learned Spanish fluently. So I made that decision as a sophomore in college that I wanted to study abroad in Spain for 1 year. And my parents did not want me to do that. They're like, hurry up and become a nurse. But I was like, no, I want to go study abroad in Spain. So I actually extended my like pre-nursing. I changed my major to health education with a community and public health-based emphasis. And I double majored in Spanish so I could study abroad in Spain. So my nursing actually ended up being on pause until I studied abroad in Spain, came back, and then I ended up finding an entry-level master's program. So that's how I have my master's degree right now, because I actually didn't get a bachelor's in nursing.
You just went kind of like an accelerated program.
I did an accelerated program, master's, which actually ended up being so much better, because a lot of the times people are majoring in another degree and then they're going back to school and they're getting a second bachelor's degree in nursing. So with the accelerated program, they're trying to like kind of mitigate that so you don't have to get a double bachelor's degree.
Yeah. How was your trip in Spain? Like, what did you? It seemed like that was kind of like I'm always sensing there's like a pivotal moment right there. Like you learned a lot of maybe about yourself, maybe about your path towards nursing. Like, how was that? And then, like you said, your parents like didn't want that. So, but you're just like, bye. I'm still leaving, right?
Yeah, no, Spain changed my life. Like, LA is so fast paced. Everyone's out here hustling, like trying to be somebody and do something. And I love that about LA. I feel like it molded me into like the person that I am. But also, like, when you go to Spain, everyone is just they're not on this fast-paced timeline. They actually enjoy having coffee with each other. Like, in the morning, they don't believe in like walking down the street with your coffee in your hand. You have to like go to the cafe, sit and have your coffee. And like the social skills out there are amazing. Like family is very important to them. Like everyone has great conversations out there. Everyone just takes a little bit more time to just like
engage with each other.
Engage and be in the moment. And that's awesome. I really love that about Spain. I definitely love that about Spain.
Any people there that you still keep in contact with today? Or?
Yeah, so I ended up finding like 3 best friends out there. We actually all came from SF State.
Okay.
We were all in different majors, and we found each other while we studied abroad. There was about like 25 people from different like Cal states around the United States. So that was like our actual program. But I mean, one of my things was that I really wanted to live with Spanish roommates. So while everyone else was rooming together, like all the Americans, I found 2 Spanish roommates that I actually lived with that whole year. So they really changed my life. They were amazing, and I really got acculturated by like living with Spanish. One was an engineer. He was older than me. Another one was a German Spanish freshman in college, and she was wanted to be an actress and a model. So she was hilarious.
Different fields. Like,
then another one was an 18-year-old Chinese girl who her parents sent her to Spain. They made her go to Spain so that she can learn Spanish, so that when she goes back to like China, she could know 3 languages and be a better like better market for like career.
Yeah, that's interesting that they all. Well, were they your friends that you met there that you roomed with? Were they all? Was that their first time being in Spain too, just like you?
Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
we all learned and grew together. It was the best time of my life. First time I was exposed to traveling.
Yeah.
First time I was so uncomfortable. I really believe that you grow in like those discomforting, uncomfortable situations, and I actually love being in like a state of discomfort all the time. It makes me grow as a person. So I was out there alone. I didn't come home for a year. I didn't come home for holidays. I stayed out there, and I really grew as a person, like independently, and like who I wanted to be. You know, being away from people that you love and your family, you really learn a lot about yourself, and you have time to like meditate and figure out like what your goals are when you go home.
Yeah,
So
I've always been told some of the biggest advice I've gotten from a lot of people is to experience a time when you could travel by yourself because you learn so much.
You really do.
About yourself, and I haven't been able to do that. So that's awesome that you were able to do that. When you were in Spain, was it during that time that you kind of knew that you wanted to get into nursing then, or is it when you came back, or how did that fold out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had to, in order to go to Spain, I had to like pause my nursing path. And so when I got back, I was so eager to just finish my prereqs so that I can apply to nursing school. So once I moved back to the States, I like worked my ass off for like that whole year. And then I got into 2 nursing programs, probably like exactly 1 year after I got back from Spain. And it was San Francisco or Chicago. But like, as I just mentioned, I love being in that state of like discomfort. I was like, stay in San Francisco or move to Chicago.
You're like, I'm out of here.
A city I know nobody. Like, I don't know anybody in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or move there. And
that was the main reason you just wanted to just explore kind of thing?
Yeah,
take
and
yourself
like
to a
they
different
gave
place?
me a scholarship, which
Okay,
I was
awesome.
super thankful about. But I mean, yeah, like life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
There
I
we
was
go.
like, I'm
Hell
gonna
yeah.
move to Chicago. Let's see what happens. And it was the best time of my life. And I mean, every time I put myself in these situations, I just grow more and more. And moving to Chicago, there were so many like failures that happened out there for the first time for me. And I really just grew so much out there. And I started my own organization out there. And it was amazing. And it wouldn't have happened if I don't think I would have had as much success and like changes in my nursing career if I had like stayed in San
What would your
Francisco.
parents think when you told them, oh, hey, I'm back from Spain, but you know what? I want to go to Chicago for my nursing degree.
Yeah, I mean, I was away from home for 10 years. When I had graduated grad school, it was almost 10 years that I had left home. And my mom and I are best friends. Like, she's a young mom. We're only 20 years apart. So, I mean, every time was no. Don't move. Like, stay closer. But I did it anyways.
She's like, girl, you better think about what you're planning to do over here.
I know. It's like someone, this is like really even bad to say, but somebody told me one time, like, you can't really take advice from people that like aren't really in the position that you want to be in.
Of course, yes,
and like
absolutely.
My parents hadn't gone to college yet.
Yeah.
You know, and they wanted me to go to college, and I'm like, Mom, just believe me, like it's gonna be okay.
They're
I'm
just
not gonna
being
die.
parents, right?
They were being parents,
yeah,
but like at the end of the day, like I can't listen to everything that they say.
Yeah, of course.
So I moved, and they're so proud of me now. Like so proud of me.
I forgot to ask, are you, brothers and sisters? Or?
I have siblings, yes. So my sister's 23. We're like 3.5 years apart, and my brother, I have an 11-year-old brother. So yeah, I have 2 siblings, and they're awesome.
Are they in the medical field too? Just curious.
They're not. Well, my sister actually, she majored in psychology. So she works with like behavioral health and kids with autism. And then my brother's only a 5th grader. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, not yet. He says that he wants to be a doctor though. I'm dating a doctor, so he sees him and is like really inspired by
him. That's awesome. When you got into nursing school, did you struggle at all, or did you kind of just went into it like full blown and thrived? Because like for me, like I said, I struggled like crazy. I don't know if it was just during that time being like one of the youngest and also being like one of 3 I think like one of 3 to 4 males, like in the program.
Yeah.
Was it like that in your program in Chicago?
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that, like the minorities. So Latinas in nursing, if we talk about Latinos or Latinas in nursing, it's 7% of all nurses are Latinos.
Yeah.
And then if you have your master's degree, it's 4%. So I'm working with a really small minority group here. And so when I entered my nursing program, I really thought in Chicago, because of the like patient population, that there'd be a lot more minorities, like Latinos and even blacks.
Yeah.
But there wasn't in my program. I think there was 3 Latinos, there was 2 blacks, and same thing with men. There was like probably 3 males in our 40-person class. And so I did struggle a lot. I struggled with school in general because I was always that person that had to like study harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just always been that person.
Yeah,
I feel like I didn't really learn how to study until like junior year in undergrad, when the classes actually like mattered, like my pre-nursing recs.
Yeah.
Because in nursing school, it's really competitive. You can't get like, I got 2 C's, but they say you can't get C's in order to apply for nursing school.
It seems like they're always setting the standards higher, right? It's like you can only come out with a B now or something like that.
I don't know. I had so much, work in the community that I feel like that balanced out with like my grades. But I had to work my ass off in nursing school. And, I didn't pass my last nursing class right before graduation. I did not get to graduate with my nursing cohort. I went to that graduation and I was bawling, crying, because I saw all my best friends for like those 2 years graduate. I did not get to graduate with them. But I mean, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Absolutely.
Like, I started my nursing organization like maybe 6 months before that, and because I had to stay 3 months longer into that program, I ended up creating this amazing diversity and inclusion organization for my grad school. It's now like one of the biggest organizations on campus because it includes students, staff, and faculty. And it's for those hard conversations. So like we talked about like social injustice and racial bias, like all these things, all those hard conversations in nursing school. Like that's why I brought that organization together, because like I couldn't find my community. So I wanted to create my own community where like everyone could feel included. And so there I was again, like more focused on social community than actual. And it wasn't that I didn't study that semester. Like I graduated that semester with a 79%. You needed an 80 to pass, and I just found out that my parents of 20 years were separating. So I was like devastated.
So you were going through a tough time.
I was going through a time, and it would have been really awesome to have like mentors to lean on in those situations too. But trip out on this, what I realized, like there was no Latino professors in my program as well. And I just wish that, at least in the nursing program too, that was more like represented. I just wanted like somebody to confide in. I didn't really have that person up until I actually did find that person, because that professor that I really leaned on ended up being the professor that helped me start my organization. Who was a Black woman professor, like literally the most amazing person I know. Dr. Reed. She really helped me through like 1, the tough time, 2, finishing strong. And so I definitely want to give back to the nursing community. That's like one of my goals, is to get back into nursing and teach.
So as in education, you would like possibly like a professor of some
Representation matters. Like I just want to be a mentor in any way I can to more of like the Latino nurses, and not like minority in general.
That's amazing. In school, did you kind of know which direction in nursing that you wanted to get into? So for everyone out there who's not familiar with the nursing field, it is so diverse. You could get into so many different, I don't know how to say it. You get into so many different professions of nursing almost, right? From forensics to nurse entrepreneur to going to a specialty like, I don't know, like surgery or what's hot right now, especially with the like skin
aesthetics, med spa nurses. I definitely, I always thought I was going to be an ER nurse, this like kick-ass ER nurse, especially because a lot of people talk about like ICU versus ER nurses and just like there's a lot of stereotypes like personality. Oh, you would be a good ER nurse versus you're really organized and meticulous. You should be an ICU nurse.
Like, you're young and you're a male, you would do great in ER. And I never went to ER.
Yeah. I ended up in med-surg oncology, and like, for those that don't know, med-surg is like general medicine. So you get like a huge variety of like all body systems. You can have like lung patients,
you get everything.
Patients. You just get everything. And so how I ended up getting into that specialty is because, full circle, so my great grandma with leukemia and was on the oncology unit.
Yeah.
And so I ended up interning at the hospital that she passed away at. And so because I interned there, I actually landed my first job at that hospital on the same unit.
Wow.
So I was on med-surg oncology unit. So I did have cancer patients, and I was there for 2 years. And so at that time, I was like, should I do ER now? Is it time for ER, or should I do travel nursing? Travel nursing has so many benefits for nurses. I mean, you have like stipend, you have like free housing stipend, you get to travel the world. I love traveling. So
there's a lot of incentives.
Yeah, a lot of incentives to do travel nursing. And so I ended up doing travel nursing as soon as I could after 2 years. And that's how I ended up in Chicago. And I'm staying in Chicago because my boyfriend lives in Chicago. And I actually met him right before I moved back to California after graduating nursing school. And so nursing, I love because it's so flexible. Like, you have so many different opportunities to do things like that, like travel nursing. So, and I guess that's where the bedside story ends, because now, up until 2 weeks ago, I'm full-time like nurse entrepreneur, which is a new specialty that I am deciding.
And I love it too. Well, before we jump into that, which is gonna be like I would imagine a majority of our conversation, is I want to point out there, and I'm sure John sitting behind the scenes and you next to me can all agree with this, is that nurses, if there's two things I know about nurses, one is I think there's an entrepreneur in all of us, just because of what is required of us as healthcare professionals, and the organization skills, the critical thinking, the prioritizing. As we know too, nursing is one of the most trusted professions out there.
Yeah.
And I want to add that if you know a nurse, I guarantee you they are probably the best people to party with. No question. I remember when I graduated nursing school, I think I partied for like a month. Like, it was like such a huge accomplishment for myself and for you. And I want to bring back something else too, is that oftentimes, I mean, like you said, you didn't pass your last semester, right? And you weren't able to graduate with your friends. Well, like myself, I know a lot of people. I even know a gentleman who I'm not gonna say her name, but they didn't pass their NCLEX. I think they attempted about 17 times.
Wow.
Yes, but
did they take it and pass?
They took it and passed, and that's all that mattered.
Yep.
And now he's living an incredible life. So I think that's kind of a lesson here that, regardless, sometimes some of the things that we strive for may not happen at the moment where we want it. But like you said, everything happens for us, not to us.
Yeah.
So, and now, I mean, I'm sure you not passing that last semester, if you did, it probably would have impacted kind of your path to what you're doing now.
Yeah. I wouldn't have. I won a diversity and inclusion award like at graduation. I never would have received that if I hadn't. And like, I think even what you said, just don't change your goals. You might have to change the direction. You might have to go plan B, plan C, plan D. But like, I'm all about not changing my goals. Like, once I have my mindset, my path is not linear. It goes like this all the time,
Yeah. It may not be like easy or how you envisioned it.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you keep working at it, you could do whatever you want to do.
Definitely.
Coming from you graduated, you worked in med-surg oncology in Chicago, right, for 2 years?
In Los Angeles.
And so
I
you moved after you graduated.
Back home.
You moved back home.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. After my parents separated, I could have stayed in Chicago, but I needed to come back home and be with them and my siblings.
Of course.
I had 2 siblings, and I was home for 2 years. And those are the 2 years that I spent working med-surg oncology. And you actually have to work in your specialty for 2 years before you are considered an experienced until you can even apply to be a travel nurse.
Yeah.
So once those 2 years hit, I was like, okay, travel nurse time.
And you took an assignment as a travel nurse after that?
I did.
Okay. And how many years did you do that?
I did one assignment.
One assignment, yeah. And same specialty.
Same
Med-Surg
specialty.
oncology?
I worked downtown Chicago at Northwestern. Amazing facility. I went from working community hospital to something like Northwestern, which is like state-of-the-art facility, and it was so nice.
So wait, hold on. You graduated from Chicago, went back home to LA, worked for 2 years, and then you took a travel assignment back in Chicago. Dang,
Yeah.
shot town in the building. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I live there now, but I'm home. And with my entrepreneur job right now and Holliblu, the new app that I'm working full time in, it's funny, I got to do my like marketing budget last week, and I'm a nurse, so I'm like, what the heck is a marketing budget?
Yeah.
So I actually am still learning as a nurse, but I like put in travel time in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like allowed 2 travel trips, so I'll be home a lot. I'm excited.
So what's very interesting and what I find very unique about you is when I think of a nurse entrepreneur, the usual things that you might hear is someone who owns nursing homes. Maybe they came up with a medical device of some kind that does something for sterile techniques.
Yeah.
Like something typical. But you're doing a few things. One, it's not even just Holliblu, right? The app, but you have that, and then you started a community, right? She can be both. She can be both, and then you're also doing an apparel, right?
I did apparel. Yep.
Yeah. So apparel. It's interesting because I feel like you're taking nursing entrepreneur to a whole different level. Like you're setting like a new bar of standards for it, which is awesome. So talk to me kind of what kind of came first, because it seems like you have a couple things going on and how it all started.
Yeah, definitely. So when I had moved back to LA, I had about 3 or 4 months after taking the NCLEX where I just wanted to myself. I was like, this is going to be my time. I passed my NCLEX. Like now I just want to focus on like what's my next goal. I worked so hard for so many years. It took me like 8 years to, in total get that licensure exam and become a registered nurse.
Yeah.
But after you hit one goal, somebody who's goal oriented is always, what's next? What's like the next thing that I'm going to do?
Yeah.
So like for me, I was like, you know what? I really want to start a platform. And Instagram at the time, I think Instagram is such a good tool because 1, it's free. It's just like free marketing.
Yeah.
And 2, you have access to this network of community, and like your network is your net worth. So I've used it like as a business because there's just so many amazing things that you can do on the platform, and it's for free. So I started a nurse Instagram, and at the time it wasn't really popular, but there was a few nurses that I had been following on my personal account that I was really inspired by, and they were actually nurse entrepreneurs themselves.
Yeah.
They were minority nurses who were either into public speaking, super inspirational. One was actually on the ER, an ER TV show. Katie Duke, she was an awesome influencer. And then also, people were starting YouTube at the time. They were making YouTube videos. So I was at that time saying, like, what can I do to support the Latino community / how can I have a voice? How can I be a voice for people that just need a mentor or need a support or maybe failed a class or failed the NCLEX? Like, how can I be support to them? So that's how, like, Nurse Georgie came about.
Yeah, I was just going to ask
my
you.
Nurse Georgie account.
It seems like you connected with some fellow nurse entrepreneurs and you kind of got exposed to, like, hey, there's actually a lot of people in nursing that's doing more than just being on bedside. Is that when Beyond Bedside Nurse Georgie was born? Or?
Definitely. So it started with making that decision to make an account. And then what I did was I, like, not stalked, but like these people that I really was inspired by, I studied their pages and I said, what inspires me about them? I made my own content. And when they had events, I supported their events. So I went to their events.
Nice.
And I built my network. And it was so amazing because, for example, Nurse Mo, who inspires me so much and has a huge following, a year after I met her, she invited me to speak on a panel at her event. So it just shows the like strength in like building community and really reaching out to a lot of people online. There's so many people online that you think are intimidating, but they actually are there. They create, the whole reason they created those platforms is to like communicate and build communities. So every nurse that I had reached out to and wanted to collaborate with me. And that was like, once I found that out, I was like, all right, this is gold.
Yeah.
So I really used that, and I really have, there's a lot of amazing inspiration online. There's a lot of crap online too.
Yeah.
I think with social media, it's lost a lot of its credibility.
Yeah. A lot of people are kind of misusing it, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my favorite accounts are the ones that are super raw, super real, super authentic. Where, I mean, I follow Rachel Hollis, who's like she's like the most sought after women speaker, and she's so funny because she goes for a run and her face is like super flush and her hair is like a hot mess, and she hops online and she's like, you guys, and she looks crazy, but you're laughing watching the video because it's so real, and she's just like giving you these inspirational talks right after her run. She doesn't care how she looks.
She's not hiding nothing,
She's
right?
not hiding nothing, and you know, it's really funny. I love it. So those are my favorite accounts. So I replicate that with my own content, and I ended up creating content and campaigns without even knowing it. I would be inspired by something, especially women. That's how She Can Be Both was created. I saw that people were we've always put women in a box. And so when She Can Be Both came out, I was like, women are dichotomous. We are badass, we are sporty, we are sexy, we are smart, we are intelligent, we are beautiful. We are all
preach, my girl, preach.
We are all these things. We are businesswomen, you know, and we are mothers. Yes. So it was so cool. I wanted to highlight that, and I wanted to share that. So I put 2 and 2 together. I put women side by side in their scrubs and in their business suit, or in their scrubs and holding their baby. You know, in their scrubs, or not. Yeah, actually, they're all healthcare providers. That's what I featured. In their scrubs or doctor's white coat. Yeah. And you know, in their sexy bathing suit body that they worked really hard for. Yeah. You know, so I love that, and it blew up. I think my following grew 7,000 in like 3 days. It was viral, and it was so awesome. And I think at that moment, people really needed something like that. And the whole point of it was to share your story and be really proud of that you can be both. And so that's how the hashtag She Can Be Both started. And I was actually really good at campaigns. Like I started another campaign, the Nurse Life Cap campaign. That's how my merch business started. So I made a cap that said Nurse Life on it, and what I wanted was people to wear the hat and write a post. So I used Instagram as a business. So write a post about how, basically a diversity topic. Yeah. Why are you proud to be a nurse? And also touch on like diversity in nursing. So I had all of these people, all of these nurses wear the hat, so they would buy the merch, and then they would rock the hat, and then they would write their caption, and then I would share the stories, and then they would tag people, and then more people would buy caps. And you know, I learned network marketing, you know, during that time, and I got really good at it. And at the same time, I was building community, doing what I love, interacting with nurses. So I've always kept a nurse community. And like I said, we are like the perfect entrepreneurs. I've just, in the last 2 years that I've been online and I've grown my Nurse Georgie account, I've just seen such a growth in nurses and starting side businesses and reaching out and wanting to do a little more. And because, I mean, we kind of have the life. It's 3 12-hour shifts, and then, you know, you can pick up more shifts, or you can start these like side hustles where you build, you know, more streams of income. And I was taught very early about like residual income. And so after that I was like, like, I would like to make money also while I'm at home sleeping.
Of course. So there's anything, like I said, from the 9-10 years I've been a nurse, not only are nurses who I feel are all entrepreneurs, whether they realize it or not, they're able, you know, they're the best party people in the world. Another thing is, whether or not they have a business established, is that they're always trying to seek something. Like I always, like, at least from the experience I've had, like every nurse that I've known, all the colleagues that I've been able to work with, they're working towards something, or maybe like they want to do more. You know what I mean? And again, I think what you're doing is amazing in the fact that you are kind of opening up the eyes and showing the opportunity that there is a lot more that you can do, you know, just instead of, you know, going through that typical 3 12-hour shift, clocking in and clocking out. There's more to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's two things I want to highlight is I hope you guys were listening is because what Georgina just explained is how detailed and how incredible she's been able to build communities. I think that's a specialty of yours. Starting from building that organization back in Chicago, and now you're building this foundation among your profession, which I admire because if anyone knows this about me, I'm kind of steering away from the nursing field, but you stuck to your profession and kind of what you're passionate about. Nursing, minorities, women, right? And I think that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. It seems like your identity that you created with Nurse Georgie, right? It's like one of those pages, like how you go through like Instagram and you kind of like want to be involved with a community. It's like one of those pages like you have to follow. That's kind of like the thing that I get. You know what I mean? Being a nurse. But talk to me also about the other entrepreneurial opportunities that came your way and how did that continue to go?
Yeah, definitely. So I would have never been discovered by the CEO and founder of Holliblu, which is the app it's a nurse exclusive app that I'm working with right now, that I'm so excited to really launch next year in 2020, which, by the way, is the year of the nurse. The World Health Organization and the American Nurses Association just reclaimed 2020 as the year of the nurse. So I'm so excited. We're going to be doing so many amazing campaigns. I just think that, I did
not know that.
Yeah, nurses have been like the doctor's assistant for so long, or just like this person that doesn't have a lot of like advocacy, like the Florence Nightingale days, but like now nurses are entrepreneurs and nurses are getting advanced degrees, they're getting doctorates and they have, we are the number one profession or most ethical profession in the United States.
Absolutely, yeah.
So like people love us. So we have, next year is the year of the nurse. I'm so excited. And so going back to like social media though, so the founder of Holliblu, she is not a millennial. She worked at Bedside for over a decade, and she found Instagram and she used it. So she's so funny. She tells me she was stalking me for a little bit on social media, following me, and she went to a couple of my events, and that's how she found me. So if I wasn't using my page actively and being like my authentic self and really making a professional page, because I don't post on my Nurse Georgie page like me partying or drinking, or I don't post nudes on there. Like it's like, I could get a lot more followers if I posted
that's a separate page, y'all.
These days, So I'm just like, I made it a professional page where like it's grandma proof. Like my grandma could come to my page and be like, that's my girl. She's doing awesome things.
There's different pages with different purposes, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. And my purpose for my page was to just be, almost like this virtual professional profile. And like come to the page, get super inspired, meet I feature so many people on my page. Like my page is a community page. Yeah. And so she saw that, and she saw that I was building community, and our first phone call was life-changing. She said keywords in that phone call that I'll never forget, but she told me like freedom. Freedom was something that I want to give you an opportunity that you can't say no to, like an opportunity you can't refuse, and I want to offer you freedom. And when she said that, I was like, all right, tell me more, And she's just like, you remind me so much of me, like when I was a student and like a pupil, they say, like when you're a new nurse. And I just see so much in you, and I really want to bring you on my team. I want you to have an executive role in my company. It's a startup. We have nothing right now. I still have to go through investors. This is going to be a long process, but if you stick by me, like I want us to build this together. That is awesome. That's something that we were looking for each other. Yeah. I had gotten into a lot of businesses, and I had learned so much along the way. And I think everything had prepared me for this, for this opportunity. And so Holliblu is going to be a one-stop shop for nurses. And so essentially there's 3 million nurses in the United States. We want to create an app where every single nurse can come to our app and find something and use and our app can be something of use, whether that's becoming more organized because we keep track of your certifications and let you know when your licenses are going to expire. We have like a management tool to keep a calendar. You can find side gigs. So this is the coolest part, that maybe you're a bedside nurse, but you're super exhausted. You don't want to pick up another 12-hour shift. You can like go on the app and find a local infusion therapy and make like $200 in 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and just do
My
something
sister
quick.
does
Like,
it. Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're like, ding ding, Georgie, your neighbor needs a vitamin infusion. Can you go, can you take 2 hours to go do this? Like, those are side hustles that I think nurses would be more inclined to do than like pick up another 12-hour shift.
Absolutely.
And then what I'm going to be doing on the app is building community, making sure nurses go on there. And so we're integrating a huge social aspect to the app next year. Probably in about 6 months, our app will have it. But
it's almost like like a little more, like almost like a LinkedIn, but like I feel like better and obviously tailored to nurses. Of course. Yeah.
So I call it a LinkedIn for nurses now, and LinkedIn is done so good. It's such a good tool. But like Holliblu, we are pioneering something that no one has done yet. Like,
I believe it.
We work so much on our phones, and nurses are constantly scrolling. But we want nurses to be able to like make money from scrolling at this point, build community on the app. And I think just the founder of Holliblu is a nurse herself, and I'm working so hard with her to make nurses feel supportive. Like, our whole tagline is like, where nurses thrive. We just want nurses to thrive. And so I have the best job. I get to work with nurses. I am the director of marketing and partnerships. And so I basically get to connect nurses, collaborate with nurses, make partnerships with nurses so that our app can be successful and we can support nurses. So like, one of the things that Kara has put funding aside for is that every Friday we are sponsoring free pizza parties for nurses in their units. So, it's like so cool. Like, she's just a CEO who knows what it's like to be a nurse. So she's like, give them free pizza parties. Like, what's one thing we can do to like make nurses feel loved? They love pizza. Okay,
it's so true. And guys, I'm gonna tell you this right now: when you're working your ass off on a 12-hour shift, and someone brings food, I gotta tell you right now, that's probably like the best part of the shift. Everyone's coming together, like we could just relax a little bit, and just like enjoy food. That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's a whole campaign behind it. There's so many ways to give back in the nursing community. So the next campaign that I actually am in town for, because we just shot literally 24 hours worth of footage that this lovely man was supporting yesterday. He was my model, also nurse. But we Cure Cancer, Support Nurses, Eat Pizza campaign. So I'm super excited to like announce it in January, which is next month already. But I mean, I have the best job. Like, I was so terrified to leave bedside nursing because I worked, like I just said, like 9-10 years to create this identity of Nurse Georgie. And I was a nurse for 2 years, bedside nurse for 2 years, and I left just 2 weeks ago, full time.
2 weeks ago, guys. Yeah. 2 weeks ago.
I left, and it was hard. I have some people, in my family asking me, well, are you still a nurse? Yeah. I'm a nurse.
Like, yeah.
I am a nurse. Like, I worked my ass off.
I just got to renew my license every few years, but yeah, I'm a nurse. Come on now.
And you know what? Through the Holliblu app, I'm going to be picking up little, 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour shifts here and there to, keep my skills up. But I'm always a nurse, and I'll be a nurse. And I think, like I said, I added a nurse specialty in there, and it's nurse entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
I think, one thing I want to add being a nurse myself is, I think regardless, I mean, obviously we need a license to practice, but I think if you took away our license, we're still going to be nurses no matter what.
We are.
You know what I mean? Two things before I want to talk about kind of that moment when you left Bedside, but two things I want to point out is, one, is again, not only have you been able to build these communities, but if you guys listen to what Georgina was saying, is that she kept on putting herself in foreign territory, meaning that she, again, attended events of people she followed or so-called stalked on Instagram. And the founder of the app, Holliblu, did the same with you, right? She attended one of your events.
Yeah, that's how she found me.
I don't know, like, if there's a lesson or message we're trying to get out of this episode, but that is so key. I mean, I think sometimes we just feel so intimidated, so scared to kind of, you're interested in something, but then you kind of don't know how to get involved. And then when there's an event, it's kind of like, oh, who's going? Or like, maybe I could bring someone. And there's so much holding you back. But sometimes if you just kind of take that step and just show up, you never know what will unfold. And now look what you have an executive position in a app that's pioneering the nursing community, which I'm sure other health professions will model after.
You never know who's watching.
Yeah.
You really never know who's watching. And if I have like one word of advice, it's to go to events. Go to these networking events. Meet people.
Same.
You never know who you're going to meet. And go by yourself. You don't need a buddy.
Yeah.
Just go by yourself. There's so many times where I go to events and it's not really about the event, but like the meaning of the event. Like the feeling that you get after leaving the event where it's just like, that's why I went to the event. It was like this feeling or this little piece of inspiration, you know? Like, I'm always trying to go to events. I had just asked Katie Duke, who is literally the most badass nurse ever, but I told her, I was like, let's go to Mastermind together. Like, come on, are you down to go with me?
Yeah.
And let's just like learn, because she is somebody that holds her own mastermind events. But even somebody who holds their own mastermind events needs to go, and they need to learn, and they can always learn. We're all still always learning.
Absolutely.
So
it's like every mentor has a mentor too.
Yeah.
People just don't realize it.
And so important to have a mentor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's interesting because, with the app that's coming out, I almost see like, again, you're taking this space to a whole nother level. And what's interesting too, just thinking about the app itself, is that you were taking a risk of joining a whole new business that's still in its early stages. I almost feel like sometimes people are afraid to make that jump because they almost feel like it has to be like, I don't know, like Nike or something, like, hey, come on board.
Yeah.
Versus something like, wow, you're passionate about, but it's like literally starting from the ground up. I mean, again, not a lot of people were questioning you when you made that jump, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you know for sure that this was like, you wanted to go full force with it, leaving a very stable career? Because I myself still get that.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody my crazy plans that I'm going to leave my job and, pursue entrepreneurship. Everyone's like, oh, you are? Like, oh, but you have health benefits. Oh, like, you have a 401k. Oh, you have a pension. Like, it's like their minds in a box. Like, it was obviously hard for you, I would imagine, making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I mean, what's your advice for other nurses out there who want to make that jump, but they just can't seem to, they're just afraid. Like, I don't know, they have family to support or, things like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, luckily I have no babies right now to support. I think my life would be totally different if I, had babies right now. I am independent. I have a boyfriend. And I even left my dog in LA. I'm so sad about that. So, like, I have that freedom right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was strategic. My mom had me at 19. Like, I was like, no babies until 30, and that's still the plan.
Yeah.
But the crazy people that think they can change the world are like the people that do it.
Yeah.
I always have these crazy ideas all the time. And I mean, that's just how I work. And I think it's frustrating my boyfriend a little bit right now because he's just like, can you stick to one thing? Like, you just always change. And my goals never change, but my ideas are always changing. It's still for the same goal. I still want that freedom of, like, time and flexibility. But, I mean, yeah, I just, like, always have these crazy ideas. But I believe in myself. Like, I think you have to be you have to believe in your own dreams because, like, nobody else will believe in them for you. Like, you have to believe in yourself. And I believe in myself. And I know that whatever I do, I'm going to do it with a lot of passion. I do everything with like passion and purpose. And up until this like point in my life, everything's worked out. I mean, not everything has worked out. Oh my goodness. So many crazy things have happened and not worked out, but I come back. I always come back stronger.
Yeah.
And I always come back like learning from something. And so you just can't be scared to do it at all. And I'm confident. Like I think competence, like confidence comes from a place of like competence too. So like I was super, after those 2 years of nursing, I was like, I'm a really good med-surg nurse. Like I'm great at this position. What's next?
Yeah.
You know, and then even with marketing, like I'm really good at marketing. Okay, what's next? How can I like combine these two things? And that's actually what I've done with Holliblu. And now I'm at a step where like 2 days ago I was kind of stressed out because I'm like, okay, now I'm full-time in this nursing app and I have to get 3 million nurses to download this app and we are at 1,700 nurses. If I dwell on that idea, then I might like combust, you know? So it's like baby steps. All right, Georgie, let
me take a step back.
Let's be strategic here. Let's put a goals list together. What's your 6 month? What's your 1 year? What's your 5 year?
Yeah.
You know, let's have campaigns. Think of the campaigns that you want to do. So everything is strategic and it's exciting. Like this feeling of not knowing what's next / being in charge. Like one of the bigger reasons I left the bedside is that there's a lot of politics involved in the hospital. You have a lot of people telling you like what you can and what you can't do.
Yes.
You know, like this is what you can do. And there's a lot of rules and I get it because, you know, we have people's lives in our hands. So there needs to be like structure and rules. But like things like being understaffed, you know, and then you putting patients at risk because you just like there's not enough people working that day.
No resources.
Or like lack of resources. Like those things used to frustrate the hell out of me. And they used to make me feel overwhelmed and exhausted. And I hated that feeling of like coming home and
feeling helpless.
Yes. You're just like, you're tired and you had a shit day and you're like, maybe I need to go part-time. And it's like, do you need to go part-time because the hospital isn't taking care of you? Or do you need to go part-time because, you know, you just have a different purpose now, you know? And so
I felt like it was both.
Yeah.
Shoot.
and I think that there's nurses that will always be bedside and they're rock stars.
Yeah.
They can do it. They work their 312s and they're happy and
That's
they
their
go
bread and
home.
butter. Yeah.
That's their bread and butter. They love their 401k. They don't know that it's going to get taxed like 60% when they're done with it, but it's okay. You know, like
it's true.
It's so crazy, but like that's them. I was never that nurse. Even like getting into nursing, I was never going to be that nurse. It was always going to be like, what is going to make Georgie the most like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm always trying to like grow.
Yeah, you're always trying to level up.
I'm always trying to level up. And so med-surg nursing was great. Okay, travel nursing was amazing. Okay, but what's next? How do I go part-time so I can start this entrepreneur business so I can have the freedom of like time and money, you know?
Yeah.
And so, that's where I'm at right now. And I love it.
No, I get it. It doesn't even have to be in regards to nursing. There's just some people who know, like we talked about the bread and butter, like their role in whatever profession or career that is just that. And then there's other people who know that there's more to it. There's more to their career and their journey and what they're trying to do. And like yourself, leaving bedside and taking nursing to a whole nother level.
Yeah. You know? And I still feel like I'm doing this for nurses. Like I'm still in the nursing community and like I'm providing a service. And I think that like for me, I will always be fulfilled if I'm doing a service to others. Like Absolutely. I will be fulfilled if like my legacy is this service to others, making people feel a certain way, helping change people's lives because of, you know, an event or an opportunity, like most importantly. And so that's just what I want to continue to do.
You're in the business of serving people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what's interesting, again, whether you're in nursing or not, you know, I think taking that leap of faith, I mean, for, you know, and talking to nurses right now, anyone out there, I mean, to be honest, you took a leap of faith just joining the nursing program. So,
Yeah.
right? Is that
Yeah.
not the case?
I mean, there was no strategy to that. Well, actually, there was. So I'm the first nurse in my family.
Okay.
And so first person to go to college. And so for me, I think when I thought of nursing, I'm like, that's going to be really hard. Shit, I got to study really hard to be a nurse. I have nobody to teach me the ropes of nursing. You know, there's so many times where like I called my mom crying on the phone, like right, like being a freshman in college, and she was playing mom, but like she couldn't tell me what to do, like the steps to take. I had to be resourceful. I'm
Yeah.
super resourceful. That's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you know, in those like certain situations, like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. It's just like
So,
every other. I feel like nursing is just like every other profession.
mhm.
Is that you go out there, you do your job, and you do the best you can do. And if you know you did the best you could do, then there's nothing else that you could do after that.
Yeah.
But you took a leap of even if you kind of planned it out, you
Mhm.
knew what getting into the nursing profession entailed. You knew that you were gonna be taking all these prerequisites for this so many years, and then you took the program. And mine was 2 years, but at that time I look back and I always ask myself, and this is true, and this is to anybody out there in a different career, profession, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. When I think about something and it scares me,
Mhm.
I'm thinking to myself like, man, like I don't know, I'm like hesitant, the uncertainty. But then I think to myself like, man, I went through one of the hardest times of my life in my nursing, going into school. If I could get through that, why can I not get through this other phase in my life? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's just crazy that sometimes we miss that. And I think at least for me, I got in a place of complacency and comfort with my nursing career, and I just like you kind of knew that there's something else, that a purpose that I need to fulfill, and that's why I am trying to have something like the Parables be a beacon for people like yourself to help
Mhm.
spread awareness for amazing pioneering apps, building these communities and doing all that stuff. So kudos to you.
Kudos to you
That's incredible.
for sharing
Yeah,
stories. I
yeah,
love that. I get a lot of my inspiration and motivation off like hearing stories. I take notes. I listen to podcasts sometimes and I'm like taking notes,
yeah.
reading books, all of those things.
Going back to what you said on how someone who hosts a mastermind,
Mhm.
attends masterminds, and mentors have mentors. I'm the same way. Being a podcaster, that'd be stupid for me to say that I don't listen to other podcasts. No,
Yeah,
I listen to other
exactly.
podcasts for sure. So yeah. So just real quick, we're going to be wrapping up shortly. Just kind of give us if you can, what's in store for Holliblu. You kind of give a little insight on that, your
Mhm.
apparel, and then also your amazing community. She can be both.
She can be both. Yeah. So Holliblu, for those of you guys don't know,
Download the
is
app.
download the app. Please help me. Is an exclusive app for nurses. It's here to help you connect, get organized, and like land your next side gig. There's gonna be so many amazing features like added to the app in 2020. But definitely support your girl and download the app.
There we go.
And we are just going to be doing a lot of inline and outline things. I'm going to be hosting a huge event in the summer in Bel Air. We're going to have like an annual nurse retreat for Holliblu. So you need to be there. It's going to be amazing
I
at this
will
like
be there.
mansion in Bel Air, but it's going to be a mastermind.
Okay.
So I am all about masterminds. I'm going to fly in some influencers, people doing the thing in the nurse world. I can't think of anybody that's doing that right now. So this is essentially gonna be like a nurse mastermind with all the badass nurses. And Kara has put aside a nice budget for me for that.
I think I know a few nurses that might be able to attend.
Perfect.
I might know some.
Yeah, I mean, just you can add us on Holliblu. And follow a journey there. I post a lot of my personal page, but I also post a lot on the Holliblu page. And as far as she can be both, I am gonna be launching some jewelry and apparel for that soon.
Damn, okay.
It's all about building the community first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just building our community there. And as far as Noogle's apparel, so with Noogle's apparel, I actually am changing the name and the
Okay.
concept. I actually decided to do this week. And what I realized is that I am really passionate about campaigns.
Okay.
And so I am changing the site to where it's going to be a campaign-based apparel site. So essentially you can come to this site and you can join a campaign like the Cure Cancer Support Nurses Eat Pizza campaign or the She Can Be Both campaign. and you can, or the Nurse Life Cap campaign, and you can buy apparel based off the campaign. So
that supports that campaign.
That supports that campaign.
That is awesome.
So Noogle's apparel will no longer be. And I think that what's important to note about that is that sometimes your first baby isn't the opportunity that's going to set, off your career. Sometimes you have to go through like 1, 2, 3, a dozen businesses until you find the one that it was meant to be. So Noogle's apparel will no longer be. I'm actually going to be launching campaigns sometime next year, early next year. My focus is Holliblu right now, but I'm always thinking about, the next thing and building and leveling up. So that's going to be it's going to be campaigns with a Z. But yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still learning and I'm still growing. Yeah.
I feel like you're just like me, and maybe this might be the nurse in me and you, is that we're always like having these ideas and it's always firing. Like, you know what I mean? And we just kind of like...
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't stop.
It's almost like, I don't know, like taking an assignment on the floor and just kind of like, okay, what do I got to do? Oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's just like going all over the place. But anyway, so download the app, everybody. Where can everybody find you if they want to reach out to you? Best way to get in contact with you.
Yeah, no, especially if you listen to the podcast, like I message everybody back. You can find me at nurse.georgie. That's my Instagram account. And yeah, that's probably the best place to find me and chat with me. We could go from there.
So yeah, that's the only one I got.
I can't give out my phone number. I see this though. Like some people are posting their phone number on Instagram. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Are they? Do you know what that is?
It's basic. It's not like their personal phone number.
It's
obviously.
not, right? It's a business thing.
It's like I think it's like a bot of some kind, but I think it helps like group a community of people, and then they could kind of just reach out to them in kind of like one channel, I guess you could say. Don't quote me, but I mean, I know for sure.
Like, why is everybody posting their phone number? This isn't their personal, I know, but like Gary Vee was doing it. He actually just launched this like 270 page content challenge that I'm going to be doing for Holliblu.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
What is that? What's the challenge? It's like
He's crazy. He basically wants you in 24 hours to whip out 270 pages worth of like content. But it's not like long pages. I think, I don't know. I downloaded the PDF, but I'm going to be doing it.
Crazy.
I know. It's exciting. I don't know.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the Parables again. If you guys, Georgina, again, I admire everything that you're doing. Obviously, serial entrepreneur, nurse entrepreneur, pioneer in her space, community builder, marketer. My goodness, I could just keep going on. But I appreciate you being on the podcast. Guys, if you're listening or watching the Parables, please do me a favor. All that I ask is if you could share it with somebody, share it with someone that you know that it could impact. If you are listening to this particular episode, please do me a favor. Take a screenshot, tag me and Georgina, and we will show you love back. And as always, if you guys can as well, before I forget, if you could leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, it helps with visibility. If you're interested in merch, you could get that at shop.ejcruz.com. Yeah. Last but not least, Georgina, you got to sign the infamous canvas.
Yay! Okay.
I appreciate you so much.
It's so awesome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Parables Podcast with Georgina Villarreal. We are out of here.